Hello, Mr. Hosman. How can I help you?
So I wanted to join your loyalty program, but it says right here you want my address, phone number, social security number, favorite type of taco, and my mother's blood type. What do I get in exchange?
A bottle of water?
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is, of course, No Vacancy with Glenn Hausman, and I am Glenn Hausman, of course. I hope that you've all been enjoying the show, and I've been getting so much great feedback. I had a great time, and thanks for all giving me a hard time about what a tough mission I had checking out the cannabis culture in Colorado outside Denver, Boulder. Great experience, and I think that those grow houses are something really fascinating, and I'll be back in Denver, Colorado for the NEWH conference. I'm going to be shooting some videos for those guys up there, interviews, come February. And for those of you who are road warriors and don't know what NEWH is, it's started off as a female hotelier organization, but it's really just a powerhouse group that really focuses on the design side of the business. But more important today, I've got with me Mr. Dave Eisen, my editor-in-chief over at Hotel Management, where I do 2 columns a week. How are you, Dave?
Hey, what do you say, Glenn? It's great to be back. Can we rewind a little bit? I know you had a podcast on your cannabis tour. I talked about this. What did you bring the mementos back with you?
Well, I did not bring any mementos back because I do not want to upset my friends at the TSA, who I spoke to on an earlier podcast. So we'll just say that you can only enjoy these things where they're legally allowed. All right, does that sound fair to you, Dave?
We'll leave it at that, but it's great to be back on your show as always.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we got so much great feedback on the last one. People loved it, and we just went on and on and on. It was really terrific. And one of the things that we like to do here between Dave and I is talk about some of the things that are happening in the hospitality world, and specifically some of the things that we write on Hotel Management Magazine. Now, as you know, I write 2 columns a week over there, and Dave probably does a whole lot more. I can't even keep up with how much you do over there, Dave.
I'm just editing, man. I don't even write anymore. I just edit your great work. So I have the easy job, you know?
Well, I thought I had the easy job. I just have to, come up with some stuff, write some words, and boom, I'm done with it. He makes me look pretty. You do a great job making those articles look absolutely great. Make sure you check them out at hotelmanagement.net, or you could follow me on Twitter at TravelingGlenn, and I will notify you when new articles are posted. And before we go on, I want to beg you guys, please like us on iTunes. I need those 5-star ratings as much as you can. Now listen, I'm not asking you to do 22 push-ups every day for 22 days. Just click your finger once on the 5-star thing. That's all I ask. Dave, I hope you've gone ahead and done that for me as well. Or really done it for yourself.
I'm going to go back and make sure I did, so I get this. I don't want to get disciplined by you, Glenn. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the last thing
I don't want to rap on the hand, so I'll make sure to do it if I haven't yet. I promise you.
Good. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And guys, give us the love. Again, that's all we ask. We're not getting paid for it. I encourage you also to stick around for the second half of this podcast, where I'm going to be speaking with Craig Nyman. He's the head of music and live performances with the Life is Beautiful Festival, coming to Las Vegas very, very shortly. So, Dave, I want to get into this. There's a lot going on in the hospitality industry. Big news this week. I cannot believe Red Line Hotels Corporation bought Vantage Hospitality. Absolutely crazy.
It's more consolidation, man. It's a summer. It's a summer of consolidation. It continues. This time, kind of in that a little bit more downscale. It's not a blockbuster like Marriott and Starwood, but it just shows you what this dynamic that's going on in the industry right now, where everyone is about bigger is better. Red Line acquiring Vantage is, in our world, that's a pretty big power play right there. It's unbelievable, though, that for me, I look at these deals now, and it's like I see $23 million in cash and stock for the company, and I'm like, you can't even build a select service hotel in a top gateway market for that amount, right? So we're seeing that the valuations for these companies, where it shows to show you the kind of the real estate assets and how expensive it is to build nowadays, versus literally acquiring an entire company. For in our industry, it doesn't seem like that much amount of money, but again, it's big. I mean, I spoke with Mr. Roger Bloss, who I'm sure our audience knows very well, after the after it all went down, a lot of it was off the record, so I can't really talk about it. But yeah, I was kind of floored by it. I don't know if I was not expecting it, but whenever you hear something big like this, it kind of throws you for a loop. So I don't know how you felt about it when you heard about it.
Yeah, I was actually pretty darn surprised by it. And for those listening who don't know who Roger Bloss is, he happens to be the president and CEO of Vantage Hospitality Group, and he founded it, I want to say, 16 years ago now, I think, right? And they really were a real hard scrabble company that started with nothing and are now the 8th biggest hotel company globally in terms of the number of properties that they have. So, I can't really speak a lot necessarily to what Roger told me because, again, most of it was off the record. And that's one of the things that we do as journalists is we need to build trust with all of our sources. So there's a lot of stuff that we know, Dave, that we can't really share. But what I can share is that I think he's really happy because he realizes that he's no longer, a younger guy. He's thinking of what eventually his exit strategy is going to be. He's built this great company, and he wants to make sure that his people are well taken care of. And most guys, I wouldn't necessarily believe that coming out of their mouths, but with Roger, I think that was much more important than the fact that he's now a very, very wealthy man.
Very wealthy man, and you're right. There's a feeling over there at Vantage. It's a very kind of tight-knit company there. You see it in their, annual conference each year in December in Las Vegas. Him and Bernie Moyle, they kind of just started this thing, right? How many years ago? Two guys. And I think it shows that streak of entrepreneurship for sure.
Right.
Doing that.
Yeah.
And they've grown into a global company. I mean, they have, talk about the U.S. They have hotels in Korea. I mean, they're a global company with more than 1,000 franchisees out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
Although
that.
We won't really call them franchisees because they have a membership model. And
Right,
a membership model is essentially, instead of buying a franchise deal where you get locked in for a multi-year period, sometimes 30 years or longer, this is a pretty much annual basis where you re-up for it. Not only that, but the membership model with Vantage provides the opportunity for the members to vote on all the critical issues, which works out great for Roger because he could just do plausible deniability for any issues that make him feel uncomfortable.
There you go. Well, thank you, Glenn, for correcting me. You are correct in that regard. But it's I think it's a great move for Red Lion, and Red Lion is really kind of they've really been in the news the past few weeks, right? You have this, but then back it up a couple of weeks in their whole partnership with Expedia, you've written about it, I've written about it, how they're with all the hotel brands that are all going for this direct business. Using their direct channels, Red Lion went the other way and was partnering with Expedia. You could sign up for their loyalty program through Expedia. So they've kind of always been a contrarian. And I think adding what they're doing here is adding some great brands kind of in those downscale economy select service segments. And they have their upscale Red Lion brand to pair with their lifestyle Hotel RL brand. They're really making a play here, and they're a small company, not as big as obviously the Marriott or Hilton, but they're really kind of making a move now and showing that they have, that they're going for it. So I applaud them on this happening, and you can check out hotelmanagement.net. We have a nice interview with Greg Mount, who's the CEO of Red Lion. He goes into the transaction, and I'm sure we'll hear more. As Lodging Conference comes up at the end of the month, Roger Bloss will still be there speaking on a panel. So I'm sure there's more to come about this.
Yeah, and we'll get into the Lodging Conference in a little bit, but I do want to say for those of you who want to get more on the inside of this particular deal, I will be doing a podcast coming up with Roger Bloss. We're going to learn all about the motivations for doing this and get his words on the story, as well as why he feels that bigger is better strategy is so critical. As well, I'll also be speaking with Bill Linehan from Red Lion Hotels Corporation. He runs all of their marketing, and he's going to give us a little bit of insight in some of these issues that Dave has been talking about. So look out for those interviews to appear sometime in October. I've got a lot of great interviews that I'm going to be lining up with a lot of CEOs and higher end muckety mucks. So it's going to be a great fall for the show. But back to what Red Lion is doing. It really surprises me, Dave, that they were the ones that were doing the buying as opposed to the other way around. Because if you're looking at just the hotel numbers, Red Lion is not nearly as large of an organization by property count as Vantage is.
True. And in fact, it's funny because I got an anonymous tip. We get these tips sometimes about, I would say a month ago, that actually Vantage was going to be the one buying Red Lion. So when I saw this, I was like, whoa, back it up. I didn't know what was going on. But hey, you know what? It's interesting you say that, but you have to remember that also Red Lion is a publicly traded company, right? And they have backers. I think they have backers from H&A Group, which is a China-based company. So, I guess, in the public markets, they're able to do a little bit more with their balance sheet. I think this kind of transaction really lined up for them in that regard. And like you said before, Roger, I'm sure selling it's tough for him because he's to be the CEO of a company, but like you said before, making sure all his kind of staff and employees are taken care of. I think in the long run for them, it's a strong move and obviously a great move for Red Lion.
Yeah, and I think that of all of the companies in this business that could pair up, I think that these two are very much culturally aligned.
Right.
I'm not so sure about the Marriott Starwood cultures, how they're going to mesh those two particular companies, but I think Vantage and Red Lion, they seem to be more like regular folks, no BS, the type of people you want to hang out with at the bar with,
But, at this rate, the Vantage Red Lion deal might close before the Marriott Starwood deal. I was at the I was at the data conference, which is another
Yep.
By the way, how many conferences are there, Glenn? I feel like I could be at a hotel conference every week, which means I could probably get a free lunch every day if I wanted to.
Now that is a really great plan. I mean, it only costs you $500 to fly there, but heck, you get the free chicken.
Yes, as we know, as writers, we usually get invited. So sometimes we get all our accommodations paid for anyway. But that's besides the point. But I was at the Hotel Data Conference in Nashville, and one of the interesting Neil Shaw, he's the COO, I believe, of Hersha Hospitality Trust. They're a REIT, a real estate investment trust. And he was on stage. He made it clear that he actually would not be surprised at all if this Marriott Starwood deal didn't close. And I was like, I thought it was a foregone conclusion. But a lot of people out there, it's being held up in China. Who knows what's going on? He's a guy who's very, very well known in the industry, very, very smart, plugged-in guy. And if you hear from him that he's saying that maybe this transaction might not close after all. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, I don't know what the shockwaves that would kind of send through. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm sure a lot of people at Starwood would be happy about it if it didn't close, but particularly the employees that are there now, right?
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows if it does go through? But I'm telling you, it's sure taking a while.
Right. I know for a fact that this is so important to Arnie Sorensen, who is the CEO of Marriott, and I think that this would be his crowning achievement to bring these two companies together during his tenure there. But for me, on the journalism side, man, it would be a whole heck of a lot of fun to see this thing unravel.
Oh, of course, man. That would be fodder for weeks to come. I like I said before, I think all of us in the industry thought it was kind of a foregone conclusion that it would close, but they keep getting extensions on it, and it keeps going on and on. The assumption is it still will, but like I said before, when a big guy in the industry is plugged in and smart guy says that he wouldn't be surprised in the very least if it didn't close, then you have to kind of start wondering about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we were at the NYU conference, and that was in the beginning of June, he pretty much intimated that it would be closed by the end of that month. That hasn't happened. We're now midway into September, so I could see why people are starting to think that this deal is not going to close at all, because it's really been a long time. It's got to be close to a year-ish now since this was first announced. I think it was November, actually. Yes, it was November of last year it was announced.
It just keeps dragging on and on. It's getting, we're into fall now. And we haven't even got to the point where they haven't even talked about integration yet. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's, the headache that's going to be to kind of integrate, 30 brands together, employees, the whole, I mean, I don't know if it's a case that they've bitten off more than they can chew, but there's definitely going to be some headaches down the road, even if the deal closes. So it's kind of like just wait and see, stay tuned. I mean, remember you talked about it, they're all talking about how Arnie was and this executive leadership that all the brands were staying, they're not going anywhere. I don't believe that for one second. Whether they're sold off. Some of them, there's a lot of redundancy there when you're talking, particularly in that upper upscale luxury space, even through mid-scale. I mean, there's a lot of redundancy. So what do you do there? Do you take some of these properties? Are they reflagged? But then you have the issue of the owners of these hotels. I mean, I can't imagine with Starwood owners. I'm sure they know more than we do about the deal. But I can't. There's definitely going to be some headaches down the road. And we'll see how it turns out. But for us, it's great. We can write about stuff every day. I just want to get some more news on it. That's really.
And we are going to keep you guys up to date as this story evolves, both here on the No Vacancy podcast and in the pages and on the website of Hotel Management. And find that again at hotelmanagement.net. Now, you said you were down there at the data conference, which took place in Nashville, Tennessee, one of my favorite cities. And I'm curious as to maybe you could explain a little bit to our listening audience, what is the data conference and what were some of your takeaways from the event?
Well, the data conference, it's a really cool conference because, there's a lot of industry conferences out there, and a lot of them, if you talk about lodging, NYU, Alice, they're very broad in scope, which is fine, but this is a great conference because it's really kind of gets into the nitty gritty, and it's really all about the data. There's a lot of, as you know, in our industry, it's built on data, big data, looking at trends, forecasting, that kind of thing. And it's a good, obviously it's in Nashville at the Omni Nashville, which is a great hotel, and a great city that keeps on growing. And great panel sessions. And I like it because it's an intimate conference. There's not, it's not thousands of people. It's control, like maybe 200 people, 250, something like that.
That's a nice group.
And really the biggest takeaways, I think overall, what I was writing about was that, every year there's kind of like there's like a buzzword about the industry, whether it's optimism or help me out here. There's so many others we always talk about, but this one was basically like don't panic. Now, as you know, being in the industry right now, we're chugging along. The industry is still doing very well, but there's definitely a slowdown occurring, right? Just like any cycle has its start and finish. Which doesn't mean, and I think we're kind of at that mature stage, but not like the industry is not going to keep on making money. But, there's no really event out there, like a 9/11 or the Great Recession where we saw the industry just take these monumental dives afterwards. So it's really kind of just like I said before, that tagline of don't panic. The industry is still moving forward. It's doing well. The problem is, and this was discussed at the conference as well, is that a lot of what's fuels the hotel industry in terms of revenues, profits, all that, is Wall Street. And Wall Street has taken this notion that, the hotel industry isn't a growth industry anymore, so they've kind of pulled back on it. And I just don't think that's fair at all. Yeah, we might not be growing 5%, year over year anymore. It might be gains that are a little bit lower, 3%. But they're still growing. There's no reason to be pessimistic about this industry at all. So that was kind of some of the takeaways I got.
I agree, Dave, and I'll tell you something about this can't grow at 5% theory. You're absolutely right. And mathematically speaking, it's just not viable to grow at such a high percent. So I always challenge the listeners, and I say this kind of thing when I'm doing a lot of the keynote speaking engagements that I do, that 3% may actually be better than 5% growth was 4 or 5 years ago in terms of the dollars that you're adding to your bottom line. And then we get so caught up with these numbers that aren't really pegged in our day-to-day business that we could psych ourselves out psychologically into thinking things suck. And one of the things that I've taken away from how amazing the last 5-6 years have been for the hospitality industry in terms of growth of profits is a lot of people have been just sad the entire time and not really fully enjoying how great it's been. And now that things are starting to slow up a little bit and getting perhaps a little bit soft, I think they've missed their opportunity to really take some great profits out, to build some exciting new projects, and to really celebrate the good times we had, because soon enough we're going to be in, hey, we need to start conserving cash and thinking differently mode again.
Yeah, that's the worry is and I think that's part of the problem is that we don't know what the next, there's no like black swan event out there. And I think the other thing was that you brought up, we talked about earlier in the week actually, was that, terrorism is that, it doesn't really, I don't think it hurts the industry as much as it used to, right? Because now it's kind of part of the norm, which is sad to say, but it's kind of, It's almost the new normal, right?
I don't think almost. I think it is the new normal.
Yeah, it is, and we've seen attacks in Paris. Yeah, the industry down there went south for a little bit, but I believe it's back up. We've seen terrorist activity attacks in San Bernardino. These types of one-off, but it really hasn't scared off travel, right? So it's just that I think we're operating and that's the new normal. But like you said before, there's just no real, like, what is the big black swan event out there that could take the industry down, that could shake the industry down to its knees again, like the Great Recession?
Yeah, I mean, other than maybe somebody in particular being elected president, I don't know what is going to really scare people, because this is the life that we have. This is, the word I use is we become inured to terrorism. We're just so used to it that it doesn't even register. I mean, it's such commonplace that, for example, you look at the late night talk shows, right? After 2001. There was no opportunity to even joke. They all went off the air for days and days and days. Now they all come on and they do that same, angry speech for 30 seconds about how horrible it is. And then it just goes on. Life is normal. Yeah. So we're just at this point where we sit it, we acknowledge, and then it's just like it never really happened. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a really, really bad thing.
Yeah, and by the way, double points for using the word inured. I like that, right?
Thank you.
Nice job.
I appreciate that. I wanted everyone to know that I learned that in time for my PSATs, I think in 10th grade. So I like to throw that and panoply out as much as possible.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think you're spot on. And, it's a wait-and-see approach, as we move into the fourth quarter, what's going on. I mean, I think 2015 was a really great year. 16 has been great. We're seeing kind of less transactions going on in the industry now. Deals have slowed a little bit, and I don't know whether or not we talk about supply and demand and what's going on there with new supply coming in the market, but overall, I think everything is. We talked about it for the past few years now. It's been a demand really outpacing supply. But I think we're reaching that kind of inflection point where demand and supply kind of meet together right there. So it'll be tougher for operators, but it's really a great time for asset managers to really show their worth, right? Really asset manage these properties, get every dollar out you can. Revenue management will be huge, whether or not. And I think one of the other sentiments was we're still in an industry where operators are maybe skittish, but they're still not raising rates, I think, to where they could. Obviously it's an industry where if you see the guy down the street drop his rate $10, you're going to do the same. So it's kind of a follow the leader type scenario. But I think it's all about just how you operate your properties, how you use your balance sheet going forward. I think it's up to operators to be real cagey and smart.
Yeah, and one of the things that people seem to be worried about, and you talked about this in the pages of Hotel Management, as well as hearing about it at the data conference, all about Airbnb. You're saying that they've reached rock star status at this point. Oh, yeah. Why do you feel that way? And then I want to give you my spin on why this whole thing annoys me.
Well, I was at the data conference as I mentioned before, and as you know, at a lot of these industry conferences, it's very hard to get these guys from Airbnb, from Uber, all these cool sharing economy. And by the way, and just as an aside, I don't even call the sharing economy anymore. I've come up with my own phrase. I call it the user economy, because what are these companies really doing? They're using our stuff to make money, right?
That's right.
That's how I look at it.
That's a good way to call it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's the user economy, but not. And I'm not begrudging them. I just think I don't know if it's a sharing economy, whatever it have you. But anyway, Airbnb. It's, at any conference, when you talk to hotel people, it's always one of the questions: how is Airbnb impacting your business? But anyway, so the data conference, through some stroke of divine luck, was able to secure the head economist for Airbnb.
Head economist for Airbnb.
Why Airbnb has a head economist, I don't know.
Well, it also implies they have a team of economists, so someone needs to be the head.
Yeah, Anyway, this guy's name is Peter Cole.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Economist Talk.
Yeah, exactly. Economist Talk with Airbnb. It's like car talk for nerds. Yeah. Peter Coles, he's like I said, the head economist for Airbnb. He was on a panel, a sharing economy panel with three other brands, and I can't remember off the top of my head who they were. But anyway, this was like a late in the day session, I believe, maybe more session. I'm not sure, but this room, these rooms hold, I don't know, 200, probably like 100 people, maybe something like that. This place was packed. I mean, they literally had to make an announcement during it to get, to bring more chairs in because it was just,
wow.
It was swollen with people, onlookers. And I'm like, I can't believe it amazes me. And I call it a rockstar status because it's literally like Elvis had just walked in, it just been like resurrected and walked back on stage. I mean, people were so like, I gotta get into this panel. And the guy from Airbnb is going to be there, as if he's going to say something that's going to be so enlightening or give them a glimpse behind the curtain of what Airbnb is and what they're doing and how, how it's going to impact their business. And I think a lot of it goes to the fact that people are kind of unclear of what Airbnb's long-term, successes will be and what their long-term impact will be on the hotel industry. I think people don't really know about Airbnb. They're still a private company, but you hear about them having a valuation that's like, 2 times that of Marriott or Hilton. It grabs your attention, right? But whether or not it's I don't think it's a fad. I think Airbnb's not going anywhere. I think it's what I think is they tapped into something that's been around for years and years and years. There's always been, vacation rentals, people renting out their homes. They're just able to have, put top flight, engineering into a great website, a great user experience. They've created a culture, an experience, a marketplace for that.
Right.
But as I said in my story, are they Taylor Swift or are they the Rolling Stones? Are they going to have that long storied career, or are they just like the hip thing right now? Not to say Taylor Swift's not going to be the Rolling Stones one day, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Is it more of the moment or is it more eternal?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not, like I said, I don't think it's ephemeral. I think they're not going anywhere. I just find it kind of astonishing that they've reached this status where literally people are like, falling over their feet just to get a glimpse of these guys and see what they're doing. Because I think a lot of it comes from fear of the unknown.
Is it fear of the unknown or perhaps infatuation that some of the people in the hotel industry wish they were Airbnb, or is it just fear that their businesses are going to be in danger?
I think that's a good point. And let me tell you something. If say 5 years ago, Airbnb, I think was founded or started around 2008. I think acquiring Airbnb was probably a better play than acquiring another hotel operator. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have Airbnb in my back pocket than Starwood.
Right. Yeah. I think that you're right about that because it's different. It's not as expensive to run, and I think that's why people are really attracted to it. Now, here's a little factoid for everyone listening. Airbnb in New York City actually has as many available, put them in quotes, rentals as there are hotel rooms available in New York City. So I'm curious as to how much it's really affecting demand or not affecting demand in big cities. And then you look at the smaller cities, and I'm curious, if you're in Ottumwa, Iowa, are you really looking for an Airbnb, or are you going to stay at the Fairfield?
Yeah, where in Iowa is this now?
Ottumwa. I was doing a little flashback to Radar from MASH, the first thing that came into me. Because I like to keep all my references timely, Dave.
Yeah. Well, if I could stay, if they're Airbnb Field of Dreams, then I'm staying there for sure. I'm taking Kevin Costner's Cornfield over Fairfield all day.
Not to offend the good folks at Fairfield.
No, no offense at all. Obviously, just any brand, but yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. It's a good point you bring up. I mean, Airbnb is a particularly, and the other thing that kind of gets me my blood boiling, so to speak, not boiling, but everyone talks about when the guy at Airbnb is talking, he's talking about so like for instance, like Airbnb is a culture, it's experience they're building up, and he talks about the hosts and how the guest interacts with the host, and the host gives them all these ideas of where to go out in the neighborhood and, recommendations on restaurants, sightseeing, this kind of stuff. I've had one experience with Airbnb. I did it once, and it's not, and not to say it isn't that, but for me it wasn't. It was Airbnb. It was a guy who are a leasing office that obviously own this apartment that they are renting out, basically, right?
Yep.
There were no personal effects in the unit. It was a nice place in a cool part of town, but it was certainly not the way that they describe it, where it's very much like, you're staying at someone's home and they're there to host you kind of thing. It wasn't anything like that at all. So I still think there's a disconnect between what Airbnb is and isn't. I think you can't get and this was a few years ago, but if you're depending on a consistency of product, hotels industry by far and away has that's Airbnb beat there. So I don't know. It remains to be seen. I think it's just another option.
I agree with
whether or not.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's just another option thing. And I neither have not heard anything. I don't know if that was really clear. I haven't heard myself anything like what you're saying this economist guy from Airbnb said. Most of my experiences with Airbnb, both personally and anecdotally, are, you're just getting a key to somebody's place or you're sharing space with them. And I haven't heard anyone say, you know what, I stayed in this person's extra bedroom and not only did I have a place to stay, but boy, were they really the conduit for my enjoyment for all of these hidden hotspots within the city. Never heard that.
By the way, and this is just me, and I'm just one case, but, the idea of renting out a room from someone while they're there, that's just, for that's not, and they talked about Airbnb getting a business. That's not, no business traveler is doing that, right? Maybe, I myself couldn't see doing that. But it's like I said before, it's still kind of, maybe not knowing what you're going to get. But hey, on the Camp Progressive, they've obviously tapped into something here. They're not going anywhere, but I do think that I tended to agree with a lot of the C-level hotel executives who obviously want to put a good face forward, but I don't think that it's hurting the hotel industry as much as people might think it might be.
Yeah, I agree with you on that sense. And I'd be curious to see some demographic/psychographic information of the types of people that are actually using these facilities. My gut is telling me that if this was happening when I was in my early 20s, I'd probably be a lot more apt to stay in those types of scenarios of someone else's private space than I would be now over 20 years later.
Yeah, man, we're too old for this stuff, man,
right? Yeah. I'm not even comfortable with certain hotel brands because they don't meet, the scrutiny of the quality I have here of the bed, but again,
Glenn Hausman is a Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton, Peninsula kind of guy all the way.
I don't know about that, but that being said, if the Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton, or anyone else wants to put me up, just give me a ring. Then I'll definitely be that kind of guy. I find it very interesting how my tastes suddenly change when I'm paying the bill and not attending a conference in someone else's bill.
It's quite true.
Yes. Right now I'm actually trying to find a place to stay. We've got the Jewish holidays coming up, and I'll be going up to my annual trek to see some family up in Providence, Rhode Island. So I look forward to figuring out where I'm going to stay there, but I have a feeling it'll be more of a traditional select service mid-tier type of a property.
Right.
All right, David, we're starting to run low on time, so I want to jump ahead and talk about the lodging conference at this point.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite events of the year. Again, for the audience that may not know what it is, it's really it's a great financially focused conference, but unlike some of the stiffer events where everybody's in suits and is a lot more serious, this one's more laid back because it takes place at a resort in Arizona outside Phoenix, and it's a great opportunity, I think, to touch base with some very high-level executives in a more calm and casual environment. Would you agree with that, and what do you expect to see from the show?
I would absolutely agree with it. I've been going for a few years now. It's at the Biltmore Hotel out in Arizona, and it's a fantastic venue. Frank Lloyd Wright architecture, that kind of thing, and everyone's kind of because it's like that. There's an outdoor component. People are dressed down, and I think that kind of casualness to it allows people to be more comfortable talking to people and exchanging, news, information, notes, that kind of thing. I'm excited because I'm actually moderating a panel on brands. And if you haven't been following the industry, as I know Glenn and I so closely do, Trump Hotels, they are unveiling a new lifestyle brand, which they will actually unveil at Lodging Conference. and Kathleen Flores, who works at Trump Hotels and is the head of this new brand leadership, is going to be on my panel. So I'm going to get to hear all about the new Trump lifestyle brand. So that's exciting.
So does the lifestyle brand, are they going to allow Mexicans and women to stay in the hotel brand? I'm curious. All right, I don't want to get too political, but I don't think I will be attending any parties that they have for that particular brand.
Wait, you say that again. You won't stay at a Trump branded hotel?
No, I will not stay at a Trump branded hotel. But honestly, I don't think it has anything to do with my my political thoughts. More so that I don't think that the Trump design aesthetic and has ever matched what I particularly like in a hotel. So it's easy for me.
That's why you wouldn't stay at a Trump hotel. It has nothing to do with his politics.
Historically speaking, no. But now, I might make a choice to not stay in a Trump hotel because of his politics. I have no interest in going to the Washington, D.C. property that opened this week, for example.
Yeah, well, I know Glenn doesn't like gold, so I get that portion of it. Doesn't like the gold design, but I mean that's another issue. I mean, this is another tangent, right? But there's been a lot of companies or news out there, stories about how his hotels might be suffering because of what's going on in the races. I don't think the problem is that the media, they tend to go after those kind of stories, and they might, there's some data out there that might not be true or might be true.
Yeah, I mean, there was this one story that appeared in Hipmunk talking about how younger travelers aren't booking Trump hotels as often as they used to. Then everybody jumped on that, saying that story.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then everybody jumped on that and turned it into nobody's booking those hotels anymore, which I certainly don't believe. I mean, you have nearly half the country that's supporting him politically, and I think there's a lot of people that simply don't care. So I don't really take much stock in that. I do think younger people might not necessarily be doing it, but that also might be them grandstanding when they wouldn't have been able to afford his expensive properties anyway.
Yeah, and I think that article you're referring to also used some fuzzy math there. So who knows what's going on? It's whether or not I think part of the problem also is that, as a lot of these people aren't going to stay at a Trump hotel. Well, you know what? There's 500 people who don't have Trump money that are working at that hotel. There's an ownership group that has that owns the property, that has employees that they hang Trump's name on it, but let's be honest, Donald Trump is a name now, right? So that necessarily, the people operating, the people owning the hotel, they use the name, but they're not really affiliated with Trump, part of his company.
The average customer has no idea. They all think that he owns all of these properties as opposed to licensed his name, like pretty much any other hotel brand does. Exactly.
So, I mean, you just want to be careful there. But, I mean, it's obviously, it's tough because, his name is on the property. And like you said before, obviously people are staying there because, whatever percentage of the U.S. Will be voting for in his corner. It's interesting. But how did we get on this topic anyway?
You had someone on your panel from Trump. So that's how we got into it.
Anyway,
but let's move on to other parts of the lodging conference. What are you looking forward to most? I think my favorite part of the lodging conference is they do what's called a road food festival, and they bring great foods for lunch from all around the country. You got White Castle burgers, you got great ribs, you got barbecue, you got all sorts of different foods. Is that your favorite part, or is there something even better that you like?
F&B is always my favorite part, and I think also one night there's a beautiful, lovely keg party because I always love to harken back to my college years, so that's always big for me. I hope to see you doing a keg stand at 2:00 in the morning on one night. That would be worthwhile to see.
Yes, that's actually going to be the theme of my panel that I'll be hosting over there is keg stand dynamics. Right. So that should be exciting.
I don't know how to do a keg stand and not get any beer on your shirt.
Right.
Glenn Houseman. Yeah, no, it's a chance to meet up with a lot of people, interview people within the industry, just to get kind of, it's all, what it is? These conferences are great. The best part about it is that it's all face-to-face time, you're not on a phone, you're not emailing, you're face-to-face with the real decision makers, in the industry. It always gets some great people out there. So yeah. And hopefully, play a little golf, a little sun.
Yeah.
All good,
Good. Well, I won't be playing any golf because, I'm a Brooklyn boy at heart and we don't do anything like that. But I will tell you, we're going to have a lot of great interviews that I'm going to be recording while I'm there, and a lot of great coverage in the pages and on the website for hotelmanagement.net. You'll be sure to check that out. Dave will be doing a lot of the heavy lifting with reporting the news, and I'll just get to sit back and share my opinions and thoughts in the columns that I write on what is happening at that event. So you're going to be sure to stay tuned on that, because it's going to be a wild, wild time reading about that kind of stuff. Dave, any other final thoughts before we wrap up this part of the show?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered a good amount. It'll be good to see you out there. Although I can't get enough of you, Glenn Houseman. I just saw you last week in the office, but the more Glenn Houseman, the merrier for me. That's my motto.
That's how I feel about you, Dave. I enjoy being with you, and I'm looking forward to being able to hang out and have a good cocktail or a few with you when we're there. Dave, how can people find you?
People can find me, David Eisen 3. That's my Twitter handle. That's where I do most of my breaking news. You can email me, deisen@questex.com, QUESTEX.com. Always looking forward to hearing from readers or anyone listening into this podcast. If they have any kind of feedback for me, any news tips are always great. But yeah, that's the best way to find me.
Great. Dave, one last question for you. Why the lack of confidence? I think you're Dave Eisen 1, not Dave Eisen 3.
Because, Dave Eisen 1 and 2, well, they're probably taken up, but also my favorite number, growing up playing baseball, basketball, the number 3 was my number. So that was on the back of all my jerseys. So that's where I go. But I appreciate that,
Well, there you go. Well, you are number 1. I'm not just sucking up to you because you are my editor-in-chief. But always great talking to you. I look forward to having you back on the line soon enough. Maybe we'll even get to tape something in person when we're down there in Phoenix. Wouldn't that be fun?
That's what we should do. We should grab people, bring them on, bring them to talk to them. Nothing better than kind of extemporaneous podcasting.
Yeah. All right. So let's set that up. We'll do that. And guys, listen up. Be for that. But now before we go, we're gonna switch over to the Life is Beautiful Festival conversation, and we're gonna talk with Craig Nyman, who books all of the bands and live performances. You ever go to a big music festival like Life is Beautiful there, Dave?
I get booked all the time for my voice. I'm like a dead ringer for Dean Martin. It's funny. I'm not a big festival guy. The last show I think I went to was Michael Jackson's Victory Tour at RFK Stadium in Washington D.C. in like 1985. So I'm the wrong guy to speak to when it talks about music festivals. I know you're.
Wow.
Yeah.
I saw Genesis at RFK Stadium in 1989.
There you go. But I mean, I know you. You're this is what you do. You love this stuff. Fish, all the Grateful Dead kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's the thing, man.
I certainly do.
You like to go out there and noodle a lot with all the rest of them, right?
Yeah. One time, a couple of years ago, I was in Memphis in May, and they had a great music festival there, and I got to see a lot of really cool bands, including oh God, I'm forgetting his name. Goodness gracious, Great Balls of Fire. What?
Oh, Jerry Lee Lewis?
Yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis, which is pretty good. Of course, I'm not too much of a fan for him because he married his 15-year-old cousin or something like that, but it was fun to see him nonetheless, and some other great bands as well, including one called Wolf Mother. That's kind of more of a hard rock band that I had never seen before, and I never would normally, but got exposed to in those situations. So I always love the idea of festivals and how they expose you to lots of new music, and that's one of the things that Craig and I are going to be talking about. So be sure to stick around after this break, and make sure you send all your comments as well to me, Glenn, at rouse.media. Say hello, and don't forget, like us on iTunes. Remember, I'm not asking you to do physical labor. I'm asking you for a click of the button. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll be right back after this break.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Get a $50 Best Western gift card when you stay 2 separate times. Plus, enjoy breakfast and free high-speed internet. Rewards members get even more when you book direct at bestwestern.com. Visit bestwestern.com for terms and conditions. Each Best Western branded hotel is independently owned and operated.
I appreciate that, because really that's really what this is all about, an exercise in me sounding good. It's a vanity podcast just for myself, Craig. So, as I was saying earlier, I don't get to Vegas enough these days. And what's really frustrating to me is no matter how many times I go, there's always something new and exciting and different to do. And one of those things that I've never had a chance to do is go to the Life is Beautiful Festival, which pretty much takes over all of downtown. And the 4th annual one is coming to Las Vegas very soon, next week. In fact, September 23rd through 25th. And I got with me Craig Nyman, head of music and live performances for the Life is Beautiful Festival with me. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Always good to chat with you.
Yeah, it's good to chat with you too. And I'll tell you, you are, as we're recording this, we're still a couple of weeks out from the show, but when we launch it, it'll be just about a week away. And you already sound like you're exhausted. You got a lot going on. Man, it must be crazy putting together an event of this magnitude and size. What is it all about?
Yeah, it's first of all, it couldn't happen without an amazing team of individuals who come together to produce an amazing event for 3 days for 40,000 people to revel in. So, first and foremost, that's how it happens. And but the reason why I think continue to see an increased growth is that we're a little bit different than other festivals, wherein we have 4 festivals in one. We are music, art, learning, and culinary. So, obviously for me, a lot of stuff falls under the music realm, and that's really why people are how you're getting them out to the event through the bands. But when they come to Life is Beautiful, they start discovering that we have all these renowned street artists from all over the world putting up murals over downtown Las Vegas. We have a learning series that continues to grow each year, and every single session that we have is completely full. This year, actually, our headliner we just announced is RuPaul is going to be headlining the speaker series. Huh. So there's always an interesting character there. And then on the culinary side, when you go to some events, you're stuck to standard concessions, which may be just hot dogs, pizza, baked chicken fingers, stuff like that. We actually turn it up a notch and are able to bring in local mom and pop restaurants as well as celebrity chef strip restaurants.
And that's one of the things I really
Las
like.
Vegas.
Yeah, the whole event it's kind of like it's a music festival, a food and wine event, an expression of the arts. It's like everything you want in one location. And I think that's pretty cool. And I remember, Craig, you've been involved with this event for a very long time, since before the first one. You helped launch it. And what I liked is after that first one, I think it was, you took me around to see all that great street art. And as part of downtown and as part of the resurgence of downtown, you're not just putting on an event, you're helping to create an indelible art scene that kind of sticks around for the long haul. And it's really great still seeing those things and being able to relive the memories from past year's events too.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. We're fortunate that we get to play a piece in the puzzle of the downtown Las Vegas revitalization. And what really makes us stand out and unique is that we, as a festival, we take over 18 city blocks of downtown Las Vegas, where really nobody else is doing it right now besides South by Southwest in terms of a grand scheme, but they don't close down the streets. But also, we're very fortunate that we have partners who own certain parcels of land. The city's been working with us from day one. We have, great community members that own, whether it's a restaurant, a bar, a clothing store, some of the churches, like people coming together to understand that this is really helping bring people and awareness to downtown Las Vegas. And that in turn, like you mentioned, when the murals stay up, there's a sense of pride in the community because you can look back at, these murals going up and remember where you were when the artist was there, painting it. Because right now, as we're talking, there's murals going up downtown, new ones. So the community really, really takes pride in this art program. And now, I quite frankly, I believe we have one of the top street art programs in the world just based on the 3 previous years and what's coming this year.
And I can't wait to see what some of those images look like. And when I get back down next time, I know I'm going to take a walking tour around downtown, which has become an annual tradition for me because I love to see all of that new artwork. But I've also found how much I'm really enjoying downtown Las Vegas more and more and more. It used to be like, oh, I got to get down and check it out. But now every single trip, I have to spend at least one, sometimes 2 nights enjoying downtown. And I know that the Life is Beautiful Festival has helped create that image for downtown. So why is this event so important, do you think, to like Las Vegas tourism?
Well, I think there's a multitude of reasons. Obviously, right now you're seeing, gaming is king, but you're starting to see people want to get out of the casinos and want to do more, and they want to explore, they want to discover, they want to have experiences that leave lasting memories. So, when you look at Vegas as a whole, and you think that, from the airport, you could be at Hoover Dam and Lake Mead in between 30-45 minutes. You could be out at Red Rock in 30 minutes. You could, head out to the Speedway and be there in probably 45 minutes, right? Or out to Valley of Fire. You start thinking of all these different experiences of stuff that's right here in Las Vegas. And I think when you look at the downtown piece being just 10 minutes away from the Strip, people are finally discovering it, where I think there were blinders on in the past where people had no clue there was a downtown Las Vegas. And until there was, besides the fact that, Tony Hsieh with Downtown Project and investing $350 million to downtown and moving Zappos down there, and that was a huge move for the awareness and it's kind of helping prove that, downtown is a viable option and people should come here to live, to do business and whatnot. You also have the hotels that are downtown really stepping up and elevating their game too. From, the Lady Luck being converted to Downtown Grand, to Derek Stevens purchasing Fitzgerald and making it the D, to, the Golden Nugget starting it by having the Rush Tower switch several years ago, to the Plaza redoing all of the rooms and now they're pool deck this year. All of the facilities downtown are really you're starting to see these upgrades happen, which in turn is making it more desirable for tourism to come down too.
I think so. And for us, I think it's also affordable, and it doesn't have that same sense of manufactured fun as Uptown does. So for you guys, that's the perfect setting, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for us, we're thrilled with being downtown. We love, obviously it's where the festival started, but we love being downtown. We love being in the streets. Love the ease that people have being able to get to and from the festival. They're all unique factors that play into it. But, downtown is the soul of the city. It's really where, if you think back to before the Strip really existed and you look at what downtown was, with some of the properties, like this was the place where the action was happening back in the day. So it's kind of, like anything else in time, it's, what was old is new again. And I think people are really starting to find, a lot of great things about downtown and, how they want to spend at least one night downtown. I have tons of friends who, like you, will dedicate one night to being on the Strip and going out on the Strip. Mm-hmm. And they'll spend the second night downtown because they want both experiences.
Yeah. And downtown, besides just being a great tourism area, you had mentioned Tony Hsieh bringing Zappos down there and the whole revitalization project. Because there's so many more residents down there, there's a whole area of that town that seems to me to have that same hip sensibilities of what people are talking about in regards to Brooklyn as much as anywhere else. It's really, that part is most fascinating to me.
Yeah, something that I constantly, have a thought in my head and talk about is Las Vegas has what every other city wants in terms of the infrastructure and the tourism, right? Like things and entertainment, things like that. But every other city has, something that we really crave, which is a city center, a beacon where the city can kind of grow from and sprout out. And downtown is becoming that with, things like the Smith Center or the Discovery Children's Museum. These are all pieces that are helping to grow downtown in the community and really have an area that is drawing both locals and tourists at the same time. And I think that's something that's really big, is that it's being welcomed by everybody, to come downtown and find, a place to, hang out or to stay or just to kind of show people who are in from out of town and stuff like that. And,
yeah,
you know,
but more important, Craig, you can go on the world's largest slot machine down a zip line, and that's for me. That's what I want to be doing. But
I have not done the zip line to this day.
I'm going to do it one day. I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm always like, that looks like a good idea.
Maybe we'll do it the next time we're out here.
I think that would be a great idea, and let's shoot a video for it and let everybody see. But I know you guys are going to be doing a lot of shooting of videos because you got so many great bands that are going to be there. Groups like Mumford and Sons, J. Cole, Major Lazer, Jane's Addiction, and the Lumineers, who I like, but my wife thinks are a little too whiny for her taste. But how do you find these bands? How do you get them to do this? And what is it like curating the perfect musical platform for downtown Las Vegas for the Life is Beautiful Festival?
Well, you know, a lot of it, as we say, is that the festival is for the community. You know, it's an event that has grown year over year, which, you know, we're very thankful and hope that it continues to go that way. But a lot of it is really paying attention to what the Las Vegas community and the music scene is craving and looking into. And, you know, I feel like the Vegas music scene has really grown the last few years in terms of pace. It used to take a year and a half after major markets got some artist, you know, played on the radio and stuff to like actually hit Vegas radio. So, you know, we've closed the gap. People are really, you know, responding well to our artists this year. In fact, is the most positive response we've ever received on a lineup.
Really?
Yeah, it's incredible. Our fans are really, you know, coming out in full force and loving what we've done. And it's, you know, you ask, like, you know, how do we choose bands and whatnot? It's like, I look at, you know, just to run through a few of the top ones,
yeah.
Mumford & Sons. They haven't played Vegas in 5.5 years. They've put out 2 albums since their last play here.
Holy cow.
And they have a new sound. So when you think of something like that, that's, for us, you know, it's a big booking to bring Mumford & Sons back and give Vegas that experience they haven't had in so long. Or you look at someone like J. Cole, who hasn't done the ticketed show in Vegas since 2013. Or Major Lazer is our first back-to-back artist we've ever had, and that's because they're arguably 10 times, if not more, bigger than they were last year when they played. Or a band like the Lumineers that have never performed in Vegas, have their second album out now, went #1 with it this year. That's an artist that, you know, is a big deal for people in Las Vegas to see. You know, so it's looking, or like the Shins, we're the only U.S. tour date to have. So if you're a Shins fan and you want to see them, you're coming to Life is Beautiful. So
right.
It's things like that, but then it's also looking at stuff a little bit lower down on the lineup and realizing, all right, you know, an artist like Bishop Briggs, mm-hmm. who is now all over the radio. Well, you know, we look at, you know, projecting, are they going to be, you know, a hit over the summer or whatnot? You know, the Strumbellas are a perfect example.
I think that's your specialty too, Craig. Now, for those listening, I happen to have had the advantage of knowing Craig now for a good decade or so from being in the Las Vegas community a lot. And I will tell you what always impressed me is your ability to say, Glenn, check these guys out. And I scratch my head and I have no idea who they are. And then 2 to 6 months later, they're in the American consciousness. I find that pretty awesome. How did you get into doing that and then funnel that into your ability to bring these up-and-coming groups as well to Life is Beautiful?
Honestly, I don't know how to explain it. I just I have a passion for music. I love it. As long as you've known me, I've been a part of it. I mean, the reason I got started into this is, I started my own blog 6 years ago, and that in turn led me to getting asked to do some journalism for a few publications in town. And, you know, somewhere along the way, I guess things aligned, and I got offered an opportunity to join the festival. But, you know, for me, it's just having that knack for the music and you know, just an ear for it. And, you know, besides us having, you know, all these up-and-coming bands and myself, we have a great partner in Another Planet Entertainment based out of the Bay Area who they do Outside Lands Treasure Island Music Festival, book several venues up in the Bay. Mm-hmm. And I work with them, and they're just wonderful people and a great team, and, you know, they book hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows a year. So between the two of us kind of collaborating together and figuring out what's going to be the right fit and the right matrix for our lineup.
And I guess you want to try to create a lineup that appeals to a lot of different subsets of people as well.
Well, and that part goes a little bit further back to your question about with Vegas and how do we do this? We are a market that is got a little bit of everything out there. So for us, when we're putting together the lineup, we're trying to be really conscious of all different genres to make sure that we are appealing to different circles and people's tastes. And the way I like to say it at a festival, I go, each day pick one or two bands you really have to see. And then after you've done that and you schedule those out, just let the festival take yourself and just go, explore, check out new music. That's the beauty of a festival, is discovery. So, for me, it's like I hope that people...
Right, it reminds me of the good old days, back when I used to do that, back at like the Horde tour that they used to have in the jam band side of the world. I mean, I used to discover so many great bands, and it really changed my whole future. So I love that idea of being able to go to a thing and go see the band that you want, but have an opportunity to see all of these other groups and be exposed to that different type of music.
Absolutely. And my hope is that when you walk out of Life is Beautiful, that you found a band or two that you love that you didn't know before, and you go and listen to them online or buy their record if you're still doing that, and then go see them when they come back to town.
Yeah.
That's really my hope personally, is that you just find something new that you love.
Yeah. One of the things that you are doing is you always seem to have some bands that grew up in the Las Vegas area, and I think Young the Giant is one of them. I remember seeing them with you at Carnival Court like 3 or 4 years ago over at Harrah's. Boy, have they gone a long way.
Yeah, that's funny. But again, that's it goes back to what we've just been talking about. Young the Giant is a band that when they really, really started hitting it big, they played Vegas a lot. And that was a good thing, but it was a lot of shows. They haven't played the market in, I think, about 2.5 years.
I think the first time I saw them, Craig, was at the former Book and Stage at Cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
It was like them playing and like 5 people sipping martinis. And I'm like, whoa, these guys are awesome. Yeah,
that was their first play in Vegas, and then they came back a few times after that, and then the next year did the same thing. And it's always fun to see bands like that rise and really start to take hold, and their new album's out, and their lead single, Something to Believe In, is really screaming up the charts and getting a ton of play. And it's just fun to see that happen to a band and see them really stand out and make it when a lot of others kind of seem to fall apart.
Yeah, is there one band that you have booked that you're particularly excited to see, or gave you a nice surprise by saying, "Hey, yeah, we'll come"?
If I had kids, that'd be like asking me to pick a favorite child.
Yeah, I know, it's the Sophie's Choice of bands. I get it.
So I mean, there's a ton of artists out there that I truly love every artist on our lineup. But there's Jack Garrett is absolutely an incredible performer, incredible musician. He's a one-man show, and is definitely one of those acts that I believe is a can't miss. I look at someone like Kamasi Washington, who's made jazz cool again, and younger kids might recognize him if I told you that he's the saxophone on Kendrick Lamar's "Pimp a Butterfly."
Wow, right, okay.
But like his show is just fantastic. Jack Garrett, there's just so much good young talent that's coming up right now. I could sit here for days and rattle some things off, but I think one of the performances that I'm really excited for Vegas to get a chance to see is Banks and Steels, which is Paul Banks of Interpol and RZA from Wu-Tang.
Oh, cool.
So it's a brand new project. Actually went and saw their debut show out in LA a couple months ago, and I can't wait for them to touch the stage in Vegas. I think it's going to be electric.
So you have to do a lot of research then in order to get these bands.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of research. There's a lot of I'd say half of it's research, half of it's gut.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's also making sure that your tour schedule and when they're working and all that aligns too. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. It's not just about money and whatnot. There's a lot of other small details that go into it.
I'm sure there are a ton of details, and I would love to hear about all those riders and stuff that are probably pretty private. But I got to figure it's a big, overwhelming, complicated undertaking that requires master logistics. How do you make all of these moving parts with food and learning and music and 40,000 people all seem to work in seamlessly?
Well, exactly how I started off the podcast. There's an amazing team of individuals who work tirelessly to produce an amazing event for 3 days. We're right in the middle of loading now. People are here. We're starting to get, our tents are going up. Our stages are going to be constructed here in a couple of days. Like I said, the art's already going up. There's a lot of moving parts where, you're, standing shoulder to shoulder with someone and you know what their job is and you're banking that they're going to be there for you and that they're going to get their job done. And, it takes an army to make this happen. And, I would have it no other way because I really, truly think that we have a dynamite team committed to making the best event possible. And
hopefully a lot of coffee to get you through the festival, because I know that you sleep like 20 minutes at a time if you're lucky.
Yes, it's a lot of coffee, a lot of Red Bull, and then maybe when the work's done at the end of the night, a beer and a shot.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So one of the things, Craig, is, when I used to be a pro at going to these types of festivals and events. Now I'm getting a little older and I'm losing my edge. So what kind of tips do you think you would have for folks that are coming to the event to really maximize their experience and not get caught up, fighting in crowds or waiting on lines or doing any of that stuff?
First and foremost, just to stay hydrated. We are in the desert. It is hot. We have plenty of water stations all over the place. We have plenty of water booths as well. Definitely stay hydrated. Definitely wear sunscreen. And, also have a hat and try to find some shade. We've done a really good job of each year increasing shaded areas, or we put sod down at more than half the festival now. Wow. So obviously, as I said, we're in the middle of streets, but, in our culinary villages and in all of our VIP sections, it's completely full of sod. We're even adding even more areas like that. So, find a way to get onto some grass to kind of take a break from the heat. We do have some spots where you can go inside, and it's air conditioning, cooling off. Inside the Western Hotel this year, we're doing an art show, which is also serving as a cooling station. So we're having our first art show where people can come in and look at art and buy art if they want, but also come in and take a break and breather and, be and cool down. Place on 7th, we're turning into comedy, which for the first time ever, we're bringing comedy in, and obviously that's indoors with air conditioning. So invite you to come inside and take a seat and just pace yourself. It's like, go see a band, duck inside. If you're going to have a beer, grab a water with that too, and go one for one just to stay hydrated. So those are some really, really basic big tips. Another thing that's really unique about our festival is that we go to 1 a.m. and the sun sets at about 6:55, 7 o'clock, so half of our festival is in the dark.
That's great.
And I'm not saying we open gates at 2, music starts at 3. Yep. But, I'm not trying to get people not to come out, but if you're a little bit worried about that, we do allow one re-entry.
Oh, great.
At the festival. So if you're staying downtown, which goes back to what we were talking about earlier, come in if you want to see a couple of bands early. Break away if you need to go back to refresh or to put your feet up for a few and then come back.
I love that idea, and I'm a big fan of pacing myself, especially in Vegas. I always have a good nap at like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But Craig, I was at a concert over Labor Day weekend and talking about pacing yourself. One guy did not pace himself and managed to get thrown out before the show even started. That was a record that I've seen. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, we all shapes and sizes, but for us, like you said, we really, we're very fortunate. We have an awesome fan base that, pays attention, looks out for their neighbors. We have a great, medical team as well on hand to assist. And, again, we really try to advise everyone to, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, pace yourself where you can. It's 3 days that's supposed to be really, really fun and a great weekend. So we want to make sure that everybody does, in fact, have that.
Excellent. And if you don't have your tickets, you can get them at lifeisbeautiful.com right now. And what else do we need to know about the event, Craig?
It's September 23rd through 25th, downtown Las Vegas. Just a handful of days away. So if you're on the West Coast, make the drive out or try to get on airfare. If you're from New York, where you are, Glenn, I would say hop on the plane now and come visit us.
Well, I've had so many flight delays lately, I may have to hop on a plane now in order to make it on time.
Hey, I just find out that people get delayed here in Vegas, so if that happens too, just hop in the car and head downtown. You'll be here in 15 minutes.
Nice. I love it. And I will say one of the cool things, if you go to the lifeisbeautiful.com website, is you could create a custom schedule. So find out all the bands that you like, the food that you want to eat, the comedians you want to hear, the lessons that you want to learn, and put it all into a convenient schedule. And then you could bring that with you so you don't forget. Because I know sometimes I get caught up in these things and I don't necessarily remember. So I thought that was pretty clever trick there that you guys have.
Yeah, the custom scheduler is great, and definitely helps people with their days. But then you start hearing from your friends stuff about scheduling conflicts, and you're like, well, get your walking shoes on, and bring comfy shoes.
All right, next year for the 5th annual Life is Beautiful Festival, I say you add podcasting and do some live podcasts while you're there as well, and then think of me.
Oh, I think you're overdue for a visit to the festival. So.
I'm definitely overdue. Hopefully I'll see you there. And I want to thank you so much for being here, Craig.
Thanks for having me, and congrats on the new podcast, and look forward to doing this again.
Thanks. Yeah, me too. I want to hear all about the show. And remember, it's September 23rd, 24th, 25th, downtown Las Vegas, lifeisbeautiful.com. Check it out. And I want to thank all of you for listening. If you have a question, drop me a line, glenn@rouse.media. Or find me on Twitter @TravelingGlenn. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week. That is, unless I get stuck waiting in the airport to head to the Life is Beautiful Festival. See you guys then.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter @TravelingGlenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.